Welcome to The Current Potential, the podcast where healing, aligned living, and intention meet the deeper current of who we are. I'm your host, Melissa Curtin. Here we explore holistic health, mind, body, heart wisdom, empowering stories, and what's current in natural healing, all to help you reconnect with your own inner current and potential. Thank you so much, Tori, for joining me today on this episode. I am so excited that we'll be talking about healthy home buying and healthy living. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on today. I would love for you to introduce yourself and how your journey started with holistic lifestyle and holistic real estate.
Hey there. Thank you so much, Melissa. My name is Tori McGee. I am a holistic realtor that is certified in building biology. I've been a realtor here in Georgia for over 10 years, 10 and a half years. And I've been, serving the community over here and just trying to help one family at a time. My journey started way back, many years ago. My daughter was younger and she was 7 and she was diagnosed with ADHD, which back then in the early 2000s, we just didn't have internet and a lot of information on. So I was, young and in my 30s and just slowly started to eliminate products, started cleaning up like everyone does, trying to eliminate what we're putting in our home, what we're putting on our tables, and what we're purchasing before we had any information. I was kind of a little trailblazer starting out in 2000, getting things done. And after years, it just kind of, continued obviously into a lifestyle, helping my family. And when we wanted to purchase a home, we had sold a home a couple of years earlier and we didn't have a realtor that could understand what we were looking for, more of a wellness vibe, asking questions about mold, humidity. Back then we didn't have 5G, thank goodness. But it was just questions about your typical power lines and, environmental concerns that we had. And no one, was doing anything like this. So my husband had mentioned, why don't you get your real estate license so you can help our family and you can ask the questions. So I did. Back in 2015, I became a realtor, a wellness-focused realtor. And it just kind of took off from there when my small little community of crunchy moms around Georgia, I just started helping one family at a time. And then it just kind of really took off. And as it took off and as I learned more and researched and interviewed more vendors, I decided back in 2019, I needed to really step this up and have a certification behind my name and have training behind my name because, being a crunchy mom wasn't enough to help environmentally mold families that are getting referred to me by medical doctors and around the community. So I became certified as a building biology advocate in building biology and learned so much from that. And as my journey progressed, I was like, well, a couple years ago, last year, I finished up, but started the building biology new construction consultant. So I can help because I was helping so many families build. So I wanted to really step up another certification in building biology and became certified as a building biologist with that. So it's just been, continual growing, continual learning so I can share and help with families and other people around the community on what steps they need to do as a building biologist to help them, take the steps to do better.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I mean, from your perspective of just your own health journey and, all of us who are on this path, when we start changing our lifestyle, then we want to share with others. And then that sometimes for many people, as others that I've interviewed, it ends up turning into a purposeful career path where you weave both of those parts. in together. So I love that was part of your journey as well. And I was curious, you mentioned the building certifications, or what holistic services fall within those that you can guide either new or seasoned buyers around?
Well, it really just gives me the education, certification, and the knowledge and training of the building biology standards, which is the, holistic approach to home building, and just all of the, information that I can provide. So when a client comes to me, there's different issues that families come to me that are looking for. A lot of them are mold sensitive. A lot of families come to me with children with pans and pandas, and we need that. And I just closed on a family that their child was, suffering and sick, had exposures in the past, and I brought in a lot of, vendors to. I'm not a certified mold inspector. I'm not going to come in and try to do any of the inspections. I have a great team of people. I let them come in and do testing. And, some families, want more, some people want less. It just really depends on where their journey is and what they're wanting. But just kind of bringing that building biology approach, that kinda sets me up a little different than other realtors with being, more of that environmental certification and understanding of building biology. But it's just also my 10 years of experience, as well as going through and learning from each family, what they need, and then, talking to them about, looking for maybe a sweet spot. Let's don't look for a home built in the 1950s or 60s. We don't have like all the disclosures on that. If we're looking to heal, maybe we'll look for 5 to 8 year old homes. There's certain things that I can talk to them about that it could be concerning, cross unfinished, the crawl spaces that have all that dirt under there that has not been encapsulated with dehumidifiers. So there's a lot we have conversations about that, just kind of showing them what all that looks like when we want to purchase a home. How is the home sitting? How is the grading? We just have so many conversations about all of this and what their needs are and what their expectations are. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me. And similar, I'll preface this next question by just saying, similar to the whole body approach and the holistic approach to healing and healthcare, like we're not, and I've said this before, we're not these fragmented parts. We are, this collective being. Same thing with a home. It's like, okay, the mold is one aspect.
Mhm.
Like you said, the encapsulation, the crawl space, all these parts.
Mhm.
And I know certain people are looking for healthier homes with certain parts and,
Mhm.
respect to that, but they have to look at the bigger picture. I wanted to ask you, in purchasing a home from this perspective, do you find that there is one of like the most important attribute
Yeah.
of a house not to overlook? I know that's probably a different answer for newer homes, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
as for older builds where, like you said, the disclosures aren't available.
Yeah, so I think that a couple of, things that you want to look at is, if I kind of look at it where even if I get a disclosure, I'm happy if something doesn't show busted pipes, past water issue, but I don't count on it 100%. Not that someone wouldn't be honest, but what if they're the second owner and we don't know when somebody moved in? So I always rely on the vendors' infrared testing of the walls, around the windows, doors, moisture meters, bringing those in, and understanding that, like, and looking at the roof and attic. But I think I would say one of the main things would be is making sure the HVAC plenum is metal. I think that's been one of the big eye-opening trainings and learnings, instead of the fiberglass plenums that a lot of these builders and people don't even know that they have in their home, is changing that out, because that is definitely, in my experience, what I see mostly when I bring in environmentalists. There's a lot of mold in the HVAC system, and you have to remember the HVAC system is the lungs of our home. So we want to make sure we are getting that service. We're wanting to make sure that that's in good shape. And just a couple of tidbits for anybody out there that is looking for a home. I always bring a flashlight and I'm always looking at the HVAC register, the vents up in the ceiling or in the floor. If you look up with your flashlight, you can see if there's any type of rust or condensation. Sometimes I've even seen mold growing on those HVAC or heat registers, and it tells a lot. That's a red flag. You might not see any type of moisture stains or water stains, but just looking at that alone can tell you, hey, we've got a problem. We've got a condensation. We've got some sort of a problem and we need somebody in there. And it's sometimes not even typical the HVAC company. I've had people that wanted to bring in their HVAC company and they've said, oh, everything looks great. And then I would bring in a mold company that kind of specializes in HVAC and they would, swipe the inside of it and they would do a video and say, look, the whole inside was covered with black mold. So I would say, make sure you get a couple of different eyes out there while you're doing this because you want to make sure this is the biggest purchase. And if you're looking for a healthy home, you want to make sure that you do know the right things to look for when doing that. And of course, I'm happy to help anybody, do that here in Georgia. And I did create a holistic realtor network. I've been trying over the last 5 to 8 years, build this up around the country. I've vetted everybody. I've talked to everybody. I'm not just letting, random agents in there looking for a referral. These are agents in there that have mold experience, maybe their own past experience, and they're just a great group of agents around the country. And some are building biology um, advocates and building biology, new construction, environmental, whatever. A lot of them are that as well. I know 2 or 3 of them offhand that are. So you can definitely find one probably in your area, and I'm happy to connect anybody up. But looking for some certain things, I would say would be HVAC would be probably the top one of the top, of course, looking for any active leaks and stuff like that, or, around your bathrooms and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for that resource. I was going to say that you pulled together and also the information on, what would be important to look for. Yeah. And I feel like I mean, we've bought a few houses over the years, and I wouldn't, in my earlier years, think to look into the HVAC other than, is it working? How old is it? Do I need to replace it?
That's exactly what most agents and most buyers, when they come to me that have struggled with mold, some of them have learned because maybe they've had mold in their house or in their HVAC system, and that's what made them sick, and they were renting or whatever. And so they are a little more educated. But typically, when I will approach, let's say we find mold in HVAC, and I'll call the listing agent and say, look, I want to share this with you. A lot of them are shocked. A lot of sellers say, well, it's working. We're not going to do anything about it, which is sad because my buyer will pull out and we'll move on to something else. And I don't know if they disclose. Georgia's kind of a buyer beware state. So I don't, from then on, I don't know what is disclosed or not disclosed. So I would just say, please do your inspections. If you're not working with a wellness focused agent, make sure you're getting, all your vendors out there, and make sure you do a radon test. I have been finding so many people not doing radon tests, and here in Georgia, it's a thing. I've had 2 or 3 over the last month that are on slabs, and a lot of people don't believe that slabs are going to have, radon, but they do. So please just know your radon levels. So important.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that something that's, we've only been in the South for a few years, but is that something that's more notable here and in the southern states, or what?
I think it's just all over. It's more, prevalent in certain areas, than others. But here in Georgia, obviously, we have Stone Mountain, which is a huge granite rock that goes miles and miles underneath the surface. But I've even seen them up, Brazelton, North Georgia area. And then, all the way, down to Luthersville and down, Noonan, south of the, south of Atlanta. So I would just say everybody just needs to do it. I mean, I've heard that you can check out your library. They have a free, testing cert, like a free, you can take this out and put it in your house and you can just check it out. Or you can go to UGA here in Georgia, University of Georgia. I believe it's $10 or $15 and you can buy the kit and you can just set it up like somewhere that's not going to get disturbed for a few days, mail it off to UGA, and then they'll email you your results within like a week. So you can do that. But if you are concerned and you've known high levels, or do you have somebody in your house that's got lung cancer and you can't figure it out, hire somebody and do a radon test, because that is one of the second causes of, lung cancer for people that don't smoke. So it is very important, and you can't taste it, smell it, or anything like that. So it's an easy test. It's worth doing, and request it. If you're buying a house, just request it. It's just a peace of mind. Yes, it might be a couple $100 to hire somebody to do it, but it's worth it. You just want to know your numbers.
Absolutely. So you mentioned HVAC and radon, and you mentioned moisture. Now that moving here from, even though I'm not from the Pacific Northwest initially, moving here from there, a lot of the houses had, because of their significant rainfall, a lot of moisture in the homes, and I'm finding that that's the same issue here in the South, but due to the humidity.
Yes.
So can you speak about how moisture issues show up, and what is that really affecting health-wise,
Yeah.
other than just being an environmental issue?
Well, it hurts families in a lot of different ways. So when you have like high humidity, and that comes back to, your HVAC system, you want to make sure that, a lot of people think bigger is better sometimes. If you don't have the system that actually fits your house and you went larger on the tonnage, it actually causes more condensation and more issues. So make sure it is fitted properly. And a lot of people here in the South will do a dehumidifier. And I recommend it, especially if you've got a basement, crawl space. You definitely want a great dehumidifier, and you want to keep it under 50. Between 40 and 45 is good. I've seen them at 37. It just, really depends. But, keeping it around 40 is a good dehumidifier, good level to keep that at in your crawl space or basement area. And yeah, I think that's, those are big ones. Those are, keeping an eye on your moisture. And also another little, for homeowners, you can actually purchase, when your shower, when you turn on your fan in your bathroom, they actually make them that it's automatic. And I do recommend that.
You meaning a fan that turns on automatically? Like ours, we had to wire it that way because with the electrical, we had to wire it so that the fan and the light went on at the same time. I don't think that's supposed to be like that, but it just happens to be like that in one of our bathrooms.
So yeah, it's basically, it's one of it's your fan, but and it'll cut on. Let's say you set your shower fan to humidity level of 40, 45. That means if you're in there showering, after 2 minutes, that fan's going to cut on until it gets back down to your 45 level. It might be on for 15 or 20 minutes, but it's going to cut off. Where if you just flip the switch while you're showering, you might leave the bathroom with a high humidity of 70. Instead, why don't you just leave and let it be automatic? So I really think that people should invest in more of those automatic dehumidifiers. And of course, if you can invest in a whole house water filtration system, that would be, of course, I recommend that to everybody, because our water system and supplies are just not good. So I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. For a first-time home buyer or even a seasoned buyer, what suggestions do you have in identifying like an existing holistic home? Because I know people have, like, sellers will change out certain things. Like maybe they changed out a shower filter, or maybe they put in, like you mentioned before, a whole house water filter or a saltwater pool or certain features like that. So do you have tips
Yeah.
for buyers on what to look for in existing homes that could have been remediated already?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's question that you can ask, and I see some people that will put on their healthy home, maybe additions, which would be like, you already hit the nail on the head with the whole house water filtration system. Some people will add a UV light. Some people will add extra like a dehumidifier. I like, a lot of homes that might already come with April air, some special maybe filtration, air filters already connected to your HVAC system. Sometimes you get lucky and you've had somebody paint the house with non-VOC paint. Yes, you might hit the jackpot and get lucky with that. Ma I sold a house I helped them buy it, and then they got transferred. They went in and did everything non-toxic. When they bought the house, they put all low VOC, Green Guard, flooring. They went in and did the no VOC, the paint. They added a whole house water filtration system. They added seems like they did a couple more things to the house. Let me think. I know they did the whole house. I know they did the low VOC flooring. And I think they might have changed out some of the light bulbs and made it more of the circadian rhythm. So they just did a few things and there was carpet in a couple of bedrooms. They made sure the house was carpet free. So they did a few of those. And of course, they no spray chemicals. That's something you can always ask, hey, do you guys spray chemicals on the yard? If and you got babies and pets. And, sometimes you can ask. I have a lot of my clients when we're getting, ready to move into the house, they're actually asking the seller not to have the house deep clean because a lot of these people are bringing in their Lysol and Clorox, and they don't want to use those harsh cleaners. They want to come in and have their own cleaners, or they want to clean the house with their Branch Basics, maybe some vinegar, baking soda, low tox as much as they can. People are really getting into understanding the more wellness aspect and healthy home approach. And it's different for every family. So I don't want everybody freaking out because not everybody can afford to do a whole house water filtration. It could run you a few $1,000s. I would just say baby steps too. When you're either a first time buyer or you're just getting on your journey, do the best you can. At least get rid of your cleaning products. That's an easy fix. That's not something that's going to cost you lots of money. If you're moving, just don't bring the Clorox, the bleach, the Tide, all of those into your new home. Just get rid of them and start over fresh. That's a good way to do that. And only bring in the no tox, very clean, not the green wash. There's so many products out there that can be confusing, but good products like Branch Basics that is really good. And just be careful what you bring into your home from that point on. And then you can just do like a under the sink water, do little steps, maybe the shower filters, little things like that. But of course, if you've got money, then go for it. But I don't want to stress anybody out because doing a little bit of something is better than nothing.
Absolutely. And I think that's reassuring that people now are asking. I know we did as well. I mean, we have 3 big dogs and a couple of cats. And I did ask for the last 2 homes that we bought, what do you spray in the yard? Because we don't spray.
Yeah.
And I think the sellers, most of them, I think, are willing to offer that information.
Yeah.
And if they did, I mean, I hope that sellers would be transparent because, there's certain amount of remediating. I mean, not much you can do if people were actively spraying Roundup, but there are things that you can do to your yard. But I think those are good. That's good sound advice. I mean, start with where you're at with what you have and the budget you have to start making those swaps. I know, and I'll share, and I don't know if I've shared this with you before in any of our previous conversations, but when we bought the house moving to South Carolina from Washington, the house was very large and very spacious, and I was changing out the filters after we closed on the house.
Mhm.
And there were plugins, like,
Mhm.
not that you plug in the wall, but they had those, I don't even know what they're called, like scented
Mhm.
non-plug-in, plug-in
Yeah.
attachments that went right on the vent. And
Yes.
I almost had a fit. I pulled them all
Yeah.
out, and there were quite a few of them in the house. I had to
Mhm.
air the house out, open all the windows, wipe everything down, because I kept smelling this smell when we went to the house, and I couldn't figure out what it was.
Right.
And it was, like, beyond, like, "Oh, this is a cleaner because that will wear off over
Mhm.
time," but I just kept smelling it. I'm super sensitive to chemicals and fragrances, and
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
the joy that I had and the satisfaction after I pulled
I
off all
know.
those
Oh my
out of
gosh.
the vents, and I thought, "Who would do that?
Yeah.
Like, this is insane to me."
Well, you just,
But
and
people do.
sellers don't think about it because it will also, and I don't know why, listing agents don't share that there could be an environmental family that comes through here. I had one family that came in there. This was a few years ago, and the husband was very chemical sensitive and they were burning a pumpkin candle. I've told this story before, and we didn't get past the kitchen. His eyes shut down. He couldn't breathe. We didn't get past the kitchen. So, of course, we're not going to put an offer on the house. We couldn't see the rest of it. So, I tell families, please don't burn candles or put the stinky plug-ins in. I mean, yeah, you might not want that smell of your house because of whatever. Maybe, it's something you cooked or whatever, but at least maybe just run a diffuser with maybe a little bit of lavender, a couple of drops of lavender, maybe lemon or orange, maybe some orange oil, a couple of drops. If you had to do something, do that. But don't, goodness, these people can't even breathe. So,
Yeah, and I don't think the majority of people really understand
yeah,
how sensitive
yeah.
some people are and the needs of people,
Mhm.
and you mentioned before that there are buyers asking these questions now, and there's more of a trend in that direction. So it sounds like your career here as a holistic realtor has evolved.
Yeah,
Can you speak more to that? Like
yeah.
what's improved and what's changed?
I think I'm having more people find me now post COVID, even though I was doing it, from 2015, 2016, 17. I had some crunchy moms, they were looking, but it really ramped up, I think, during the 2020 is when people were staying at home, getting sick from their homes. A lot of people were leaving their states, coming to Georgia, and they found me, through Facebook groups, but a lot of them, are referred from different doctors and my podcast and, just getting out there and helping one family at a time through word of mouth. I'm getting all of my referrals. Everybody is, sending their friends to me, and I'm getting 4 and 5 calls and follow-ups weekly. I'm doing consultations, and I don't charge anything extra for my service. So, and a lot of, to help people, you're not paying me any extra to work with me with my certifications that you would pay another realtor, so you're not going to be out of pocket, any extra money for my services. So, that's the beautiful thing about it. You're getting, all of my many years of experience, and it's not anymore what is your home worth. That's gone down the drain, and we all can easily figure out what your home worth is, but I can sell your home, but I can also help you find a wonderful, healthy home, something that you're looking for. And we can look at it through the eyes, environmentally, a healthy home. What are those healthy home features that you're looking for? And so I have people looking for me and finding me and using me.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, that is your added value. I mean, as a holistic home
Yeah.
expert, but not just someone that has taken these certifications, you are a model for that. You're living your life that way.
Yeah.
You can speak from direct
Mhm.
experience and lived experience making these choices. So that's what I really love about you is that
Yeah.
you're walking the talk,
Yeah.
not just telling people, oh, yeah, you can buy a house with this or that
Yeah.
to upsell them per se,
Right.
because I'm sure there's a lot of realtors that can talk the talk on the upsells for all, because some of this stuff is expensive and they are added features.
Right.
But like you said, you can do the small baby steps
Right.
and you can get a decent shower filter for $60. It
Right.
doesn't have to be a super expensive one. I mean, there's a water machine that we use on the counter. We're still kind of getting monies together to
Right.
save up for that whole house water filtration system.
Mhm.
And I don't know if we ever move from here, if I would want to leave that, especially if it was several $1,000s. Maybe, we'll see.
Right.
But there are small things. I mean, you could get the water machine,
Mhm.
for $300 or less.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a $6,000
Right.
system or a $3,000 system. I mean, even some of the home filtration systems the company comes and they test your water once or twice a year so that they can tell you, okay, we got to swap out this
Yeah.
or that. But you bring a tremendous amount of value to the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
One question I wanted to ask was, in my holistic, crunchy group,
Mhm.
I know the needs are changing for the people that are leading the way on these, and also for the people that they're maybe just stepping on that moving walkway of their health journey. Do you feel that there's more need for, given the direction of the world, bug out places, unrestricted land, right?
Yeah.
Off-grid properties. I want to dig a little bit into that, right?
Mhm.
Creative uses for homes
Yes.
and land and outbuilding.
Oh, yes. I'm so many
Yeah.
homesteaders and off the grid. People are wanting to grow their own food and they're realizing that. So buying 4 or 5 acres, whatever that looks like. I've got a family Sunday. They're looking for 2 to 10 acres and they want to start having animals. They want to start growing their own food. I'm seeing that a lot. They might not be 100% off grid, but they want to rely on their own food source because a lot of people have lost trust in our food, food with everything getting sprayed with chemicals. So they're wanting to have a greenhouse and their own chickens and just everything and I respect everybody for where they're at and that's a good thing also for me. I can help them look for certain things that they wouldn't have looked for. Is there any kind of plants nearby? And a lot of people will just go to the listing agent and say, hey, represent me. I don't have an agent. Well, the listing agent typically represents the seller. Their best interest is the seller versus hiring your own buyer's agent. They're going to look out for your interest. They're going to ask questions. They're going to make sure you have a perk test and a soil sample and all that stuff and look for things. So I would definitely encourage people to, I hear people, well, I've had a bad experience. I've had a bad experience in the past. Don't let one bad experience not want to use a realtor in the future. Let somebody guide you through your purchase because this is a lot of things can go wrong with liens on a property and just understanding easements and just all of this. So definitely do your research and do your due diligence. There could be transformers hidden or something that you don't know about.
And I'm glad you brought that up too.
Yeah, yeah, and well water.
Mhm.
Yeah, transformers, like, that is huge. I had a family looking to buy into a more holistic, they're calling it a homestead here in Georgia. They have animals, and they're gonna do bees and all that. There is a huge transformers going through the property, and they've got little cows and animals right underneath this community. And I have so many I mean, people have problems with that. I mean, especially my electromagnetic and all of my families that do are EMF sensitive, they could never live, somewhere like that with transformers and power lines nearby. So, we just look for and now most of my families want to be away from all that. The real holistic
Mhm.
families that are, looking, they're, don't get me near a 5G tower, get me away from transformers, get me away from farms. I had one family that left the Midwest to come here because their 10-acre farm was touching other farms, which was 20 and 30 acres. They were just spraying so many chemicals on there and they didn't want all that coming in there on there, so they actually downsized to a small little 2-acre little homestead over here in North Georgia. But they knew it was all organic. Nobody around them was spraying, and they're okay with downsizing. So it really depends on what your needs are. Would you rather have more land but worry about what's being sprayed behind you and what's going on around you? Or, I guess you just have to weigh out what's important and what works for you. And if you can get everything and know everybody around you is like maybe forestry or you don't have to worry about anything being sprayed, but people have to worry about that because they were going around spraying though for those mosquitoes, on these different forest places, and all these families were worried about all the chemicals being sprayed for mosquitoes. So it's like, oh, I feel like we're always, trying to do the best we can. You don't want to stress about it and worry about it that much. Just do the best you can when you're out looking, and just try to write down what's most important to you, and stick with it. You'll be fine.
Right. And I think there's the must-haves and the nice-to-haves on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
home buying list for many people.
Yeah.
I did want to return because it was a great segue for where I was headed for my next question, and that was discussing EMF,
Mm-hmm.
5G towers,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a huge issue. I know,
Mm-hmm.
I turn off the Wi-Fi box at night.
Yeah.
I have friends that have timers on their Wi-Fi
Uh-huh.
boxes, so there are simple steps,
Yeah.
that are more cost effective. And then, of course,
Yep.
other EMF remediation or balancing, harmonizing. There's all these
Uh-huh.
names for these systems that people have in their homes.
Right.
Can you speak to that from your professional experience? How far away from
Mm-hmm.
a tower, a 5G tower, or even just a cellular tower should you aim for when looking?
Well, that is such a good question. I find my readings, kind of all over the place. I've been out on people's front porches and knowing there's a 5G tower up around the corner. I couldn't necessarily see it. Distance is your friend. And of course, trees and blocking is your friend as well. So there was one in the back of the property that we had low reading on, and it was, covered in trees. But the front one was just giving off really high readings, just, not normal at all. So it really depends. I mean, obviously, a half a mile to a mile would be a dream, but with them popping up on every corner, at least be without a view of one, I would say for sure. And if you could try to stay a half a mile away, great. But I just know a lot of people living in the city. That's also, that's a big concern for them. And not everybody can live in the country, away from all of them. So my heart goes out to them, and because you see them a lot of times on the top floor, just going down. And you got also the smart meters. Like if you go to apartments or even townhomes, the end unit, you'll sometimes see 20 or 30 of them right there. So you don't want to be on that side with all the smart meters. You want to be on the other side, and you want to be away from, all of, towers, power lines. The furthest you can be, distance is your friend. Just try to remember that, and I think you'll be fine.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I was talking with a close friend of mine, and for a townhome or condo, I'm not sure what the setup was, but you're right, there are multiple smart meters. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you are the owner of one of those units, sure, you can put one of those Faraday cages.
Mhm.
We have one on ours, but what about the other 12 to 20 smart meters
Exactly.
around yours,
Yeah.
right? Because you can't, I mean, you can encourage people or let people know. I mean, people that know me know that I talk to anyone, anywhere about
Right.
any topic, especially health.
Yeah.
But not everybody has me, going,
Right.
hey, do you want to get a Faraday cage for your smart meter? Or,
Right.
I mean, and I even just reached out to our electric company. Power companies will, with a doctor's note saying that you're RF sensitive, radio frequency sensitive, or EMF sensitive,
Right.
and you have a note from your doctor, they will waive the fee to remove it, and they will also waive the monthly fee.
Mhm.
Not all companies are that
Right.
way. Duke used to be like that. I'm not sure where they stand now. We have Blue Ridge Electric. I got a nice email back saying it's going to be $192 to take out the meter and then a service fee each month. But we have 2 meters in our property.
Right.
So, I've got to get a cage for the second one. I mean, there's just all these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you said, it's like don't stress yourself out or exhaust yourself, but there are so many avenues where people, it's like the invisible toxicity.
I'll go out and I'll like assess, families and kind of guide them on what my thoughts are, as just, like as a courtesy. And like I went out to one, and it wasn't their smart meter was outside. It was under the kitchen area, in between that and one of the child's rooms, but it wasn't like really close. Like it was the windows and everything, and they were okay with their reading. So, but if it's like right there in your child's room or somebody's sleeping right there at it, then of course you might want to definitely move the bed to the other side. And I tell people to pull the beds away from the wall anyway. You don't want your bed right up against the wall. with all the electromagnetic going through there. So there's just so many things that you can do, like unplug your lamps. We can have a whole nother conversation on all of that kind of stuff that I suggest to people to kind of help them with. And that's what I do whenever I work with people. You're not just getting my expertise, you're getting all of these years of knowledge and things to do. And I've got other testings I can do with dirty electricity and sharing with them, like wow, we do everything. And then who I bring in and just all this stuff. It's a whole, when you work with me, it's really an experience, right? And you're getting a lot of great information, but you're also getting healthy home basket to kind of get you started on your way. So, I mean, there's a lot to it. So it's not just your typical real estate experience.
Well, right. You're not just providing standard real estate agent services, you're educating, you're pointing out all the moving parts from a holistic lens, and you're getting the buyer set up and started. You said even though you're not a mold expert, you're at least bringing the knowledge. Okay, here's some services that I would recommend. Someone told me, do not hire the same company that does inspection as remediates. They should be two separate companies because there's a conflict of interest. Can you speak to that too?
I was actually talking to somebody about that today. And yes, that is definitely typically what you want to do. But then I've been hearing, I've had 2 or 3 people that's called me and said, hey, Tori, I did hire an IEP and hygienist. They charged me $3,000. And then I went with their recommendation on the remediation company. So the IEP was charging this. And then I came in and they charged me another $20,000 to do the remediation. And I wasn't happy. I mean, so it's kind of like, it's hard to know. I was talking on one of my other podcasts, I think it was on Change the Air Foundation. We were talking, it's really the wild, wild west out there, right? When it comes to mold remediators. And that's a very good, I hear that a lot. And I typically agree with that. But then I have a couple of people that I know that do really good inspections that also do the remediation, but they have kind of separated on that. So, I mean, it really just depends on what you're looking for, their certification. Make sure that you're hiring the right person and you make sure they're credentialed, and you just want to just really check on who you hire first, because sometimes the cheapest isn't, well, I know the cheapest isn't always the best or is the best. You want to make sure they're doing the right protocol and ask questions, are they using the negative air machines? Are they, enclosing and capping off, the work area? I mean, what's the process? And ask questions and get 2 or 3 people out. Just don't go on one person. And when you're buying a house, though, you can't hire a IEP. They're not going to come out during your home purchase because they want you to be the homeowner, because they're typically going to charge, a couple of $1,000s, 2 or 3,000, and they're going to take all day. So that's why maybe looking for an environmental or healthy home company to come out and do your inspection would be better. And they can provide the information on your remediation or what their recommendations are. And I know there's some really good healthy home inspectors out there for that can lead you to the next steps.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What indoor mold test or services would you recommend?
That's a good question. So, the ERMI, not many people know about unless you're in, the mold movement. And ERMI is a dust test, and it's going to tell you the most, I want to say, problematic molds. And it's a dust. You're going to dust your baseboards, your ceiling fans. You're just going to have a good sample of dust to send it off to the lab. It's not the problem with that one. It's not going to tell you where your issue is, where is it coming from, and it's not an end all be all. And the problem with air tests that a lot of mold during your home inspection, your home inspector is going to say, yeah, we'll set up an air sample. Well, the problem with that is you're in the living room doing an air sample and you've had a leak in a bathroom. How is that going to provide you information? So that's really the hard part that we have. It's not necessarily one test is better than the other. You've got a multiple, solution here that you need to come up with. and reaching out to a professional with the tools that they need, with a visual inspection, with infrared, with moisture meters, with flashlights, crawling around your attic, getting around everywhere, looking for stuff is really, really one of the best that you can do.
Awesome. But I mean, it sounds like those tests are limited,
They are.
those at home tests.
And
Yeah.
we've got, you can, people hire the mold dog, which is a great, they're all good. And I love, and I get a lot of great feedback from mold dogs that people will use that, but it's not a, it's a great source. It's a great tool like the ERMI is, and like maybe an air test is, or maybe you're doing a cavity testing, but it's not just a one, this is going to give us our answers. So that's the hard part when it comes to mold and moisture, is the families that are struggling. It's really more than just that one. It's not going to tell you. And ERMI's going to tell you multiple spores you have going on in your home, but it's not going to tell you the problem, where it's coming from.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So another question that I'd given some thought to recently after seeing some information online was about the AI data centers. And I am wondering if you're seeing some pushback from home buyers around this issue, because what I've seen is it has to do with the water usage and the water pressure in the homes that are around these AI data center locations. Can you speak more about that?
Yes. We've had a huge pushback, thankfully, here in the community. We've got a few communities right now that's meeting with the city councils. They are not environmentally sound. We've noticed here in Georgia, our power bills have all went up over the last year. For what? For these AI data centers? I mean, they're taking so much water from our community, and we're sitting here talking about having a drought. How are they continued allowing? And if you're not familiar with these data centers, get involved, because they're popping up everywhere. We've got so many here in Georgia. It's actually a huge concern that we're all having here locally. So get involved, and you can search data centers in your area or in your state, and get involved, because it's only going to make your power bill go up, your water bill go up, and we just have so many concerns with water issues here. So it's definitely a big problem here in Georgia, and we've got to stand up and fight those for sure. They're going to take over, and they're going to be everywhere, and we're going to have even higher water bills and higher power bills, and we're not going to have all the water resources that we typically have. It's ridiculous. It's for what?
Yeah, and highly concerning.
It's really concerning. I mean, I feel like every couple of years we're having to fight something. We're having to fight all the GMOs and all the spraying of our food. Then it's the 5G towers, and then it's these cancer clusters, and now it's the data centers on every corner. It's just, you got to stay diligent.
Right.
You got to stay on top of it, get involved, and try to fight these data centers, because it's not good for the value of your home, and it's not good for your community to have these.
I mean, it sounds like a large part of what you do is also educating, teaching others, about these issues. And I'm glad that you're staying informed and encouraging people to get involved. I think that's
Yeah.
important. And any of the resources that we talked about, there are some EMF and the 5G tower antenna searches. So I will put those in the show notes. But if you have even a consumer EMF reader that you want to recommend, I can include
Yeah.
that. Thank you. It sounds like you really enjoy this, and it's so fulfilling for you. I wanted to ask you, why do you do what you
That
do?
is such a good question. I just feel like I don't even feel like I don't even feel like I go to work. Like, this is such a joy. Like, I get up every day and absolutely love helping families. Like, this is absolutely a passion of mine. I love everything holistic. I love everything wellness. I love, just everything healthy home. And it just brings me pleasure that I can educate and help families understand what's going on behind their walls, and help them what to look for. Or if they're in a home, how can I help educate them on to create a healthy home, some things to do that they might not have known. Maybe they've worked with another realtor in the past and they've had issues. What can we do to make it better now? I love all of it. It makes me so happy to help one family at a time here in Georgia and around the country. I do consultations and connect other people up with other agents around that they can also have the same experience. And it's just so important.
It's absolutely. Well, our homes are a reflection of our health in many ways. The choices that we make inside our home, the materials, the toxins, like
Yeah.
you said, the moisture issues, whatever it is just important as, what we're bringing into the home. And I saw on a post some time ago, and you spoke about it a little bit before, about how you have different vendors and you connect people with these different partners. Now, you've partnered with a healthy builder recently. Did I see that correct?
Yes, I have a healthy builder here in Georgia. He's fantastic. He knows his stuff and he's wonderful. And I highly recommend him. And when you work with me, you get access to all of my resources. I've worked hard over the last 10 years to put a group of people together. And when you work with me, you're gonna get these healthy home inspections, and it's gonna be an experience, and you're gonna learn a lot on what to look for, and it's really great. I've worked very hard over the last years to help families when they do purchase to have this resources.
Yeah, it's so important to connect and network with other people that are on the same page. We have a healthy builder up here that I had learned about that I believe I connected
Yeah,
with
yeah.
as well. Jack's company, the Kingdom Builders. And I just saw that they just completed their first home and their first build, and that looks beautiful. I mean, I'm seeing on social media and just in my own community the increase in builders that are focusing on the eco-friendly
Right.
materials, whether that's denim or hempcrete or alternative insulation, and the healthier non-toxic, like you were
Mhm.
speaking about, the paints and the flooring. I mean, people don't think they're going to put in the flooring. Are they going to off gas? Same thing with the carpet. There's endless choices you could make. But like you said earlier, you need to pick and choose what's most important to you. Obviously, water in the home is very
That's
important,
right. Yeah.
and for every family, it might be a little bit different. Like you said, that couple that was having acreage so that they could grow their own food. So just honing in on what's important for each person and their individual
Mhm.
needs. As we mentioned, healthy homes are important to our health. But even if you're not buying or selling, what's one thing that someone can do in their home so they're not so overwhelmed in making all of these healthier, positive changes and shifts? What would you recommend?
Well, I would make sure you're using a really good air filter in your HVAC system, like a MER 11, 12, something like that. That's a good, easy, low maintenance, get you a good HVAC filter. And obviously have your HVAC system serviced and cleaned. Make sure your plenums are metal. Those are easy little fixes that you can start today. Get rid of any cleaning products, plug-ins, air fresheners, Febreze, anything like that. Your Myers is not a really green or, a healthy cleaning product. Get rid of all of those. Go with more natural, no scent. Perfumes are not your friend. If you want to do some nice smelling, I think doTERRA might even have. If you want to do a plug-in, you could do like a essential oil. You could maybe put that in there as a air freshener, but I just would say maybe do a diffuser with like some orange oil, something, because you have to be careful with all of that with pets as well. So you want to make sure that you're not using something that could, interfere with them and what they're allergic to. And if you do have carpeting, maybe a easy step would eventually get rid of carpeting in your home. Those are very high allergy holding for kids with asthma and different chemical sensitivity. That's an allergen. Try to just bring more low tox. If you're going to paint your house, just get a no VOC paint. There's little tiny things you can do that will make a difference in your home.
Mhm. I've even seen paints where it's like EMF
Yeah.
blocking paint. And people are even rewiring their homes so that the power goes off in certain
Yeah.
sections of the home. I have a friend in Washington that they shut off the
Uh-huh.
actual power to the wing of where their
Yeah.
children sleep. There's, like I said, a range of what people are
Right.
doing. I was going to also ask you, where can a prospective client and someone that wants to learn more find you? I know you have a website, which I'll put that in the show
Yes.
notes.
My website is really has a lot of resources. If you go to the blog section, you can hear all the podcasts. I do have, healthy home information. You can actually, I do have a little search area on my website. I've got wellness real estate magazines that I absolutely love. So if you're into healthy homes, go to my website and scroll through all the magazines. It's got so many tips for vacations, how to do a vacation that is low tox, what to bring on vacation. It talks about different sunscreens that are healthy. It just has so many resources. Check out my magazines. I love the Wellness RE magazines. It's tons of resources. And it's atlantaholisticrealtor.com. You can find me on Instagram, Holistic Home Expert. And then you can just search me up on Facebook, reach out to me. I have a personal page, I have a business page. I'm on TikTok. I think I'm the Holistic Realtor on the TikTok, but I don't get on there very often. I need to do better. And I see all these amazing people doing all these spinning around on countertops and doing social media trying to sell homes. I won't be doing that, but
Will you just be your authentic self? You're doing amazing. I love what you offer, and I love how awake and aware you are and informed. And I think, like I said earlier, that is such a service and an added value to someone, whether they're seasoned, holistically minded, or whether they're new on this journey. I think it's really important to start thinking about our health in relationship to our home. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure to connect with you today on this episode of Healthy Homes, brought to you by Miss Tori McGee. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to the next one.
Thank you so much, Tori. And to our listeners, we appreciate you tuning in to this episode on Healthy Home Buying with Tori McGee, a holistic realtor. Thank you for tuning into the Current Potential podcast. If this conversation resonated, inspired your next step, or you know someone this episode can benefit, please share, subscribe, and find me on Instagram at The Current Potential for new episodes and related content, and on my website, melissacurtin.com. Until next time, be aligned, stay connected to your inner wisdom, and follow the current that supports your potential.